I mean, you guys saw the thumbnail and the title of the video, right? A Synology killing off their range of router devices. And does that spell the end of Synology Router Manager, or SRM? Now, I'm going to preface this video straight away by saying I have not heard anything specific. I have spoke to numerous people during Computex as well about Synology's commitment to their router series, and I never was given a direct answer. But particularly over the last 3 months, but I would argue almost for an entire year, I've seen bubbling disquiet and some pretty significant discontent on several websites about Synology and their support of their router devices. And in this video, I'm going to go through the 5 core reasons why I think Synology, to paraphrase something I saw on Reddit, are exiting the router market. What a lovely, polite way to put it. So let's crack on with number 1. This is genuinely the weakest argument of the 5 in my opinion, but I wanted to include it anyway because it is bubbling to the surface, and that is that Synology's routers do not feel particularly cutting edge. Now, when they launched, I'm not going to say they were especially cutting edge at the time. I said so in videos when they rolled out with their Wi-Fi 6 routers. At that point, Wi-Fi 7 had already sort of bubbled to the surface, but they were still innovating with things like breaking into the 5.9 gigahertz spectrum and therefore opening up certain areas of radio bandwidth which others weren't. They were still innovating, and of course on a software level SRM was still really good. Still nonetheless, fast forward to 2026, and when you realise that most of their bigger deal routers rolled out in 2022, 2023, that's a decent amount of time ago. And to see no meaningful update on these, and I was really hoping something would appear at Computex towards Wi-Fi 7. And then of course MLO, one of the few brands I thought would actually take advantage of MLO properly, particularly after UniFi doing it recently with their AirWire, only added to the disquiet that this is a brand that the most meaningful thing their routers have upgraded towards was 2.5 gig. And, boo-hoo, that's not exactly news at this point. But let's crack on. Right, now we're getting on to the real point, and this one ultimately is people are being told by Synology at events that they're slowly retiring the series. Now, again, I have not been told that. No one has said that to me. But different reports online, and we've got to kind of take them with a pinch of salt, of course, because it is just words on the internet. More and more people are stating online that Synology reps in one context or one place or another, from events to point-to-point partners, are effectively saying we are calling it a day on the router range. And the problem is, the more you hear it and the more you look at all the other evidence, you can't help but feel that it kind of makes sense, especially as we get on to our third point. Low stock levels. Now, the main router points seem to be a little bit more available, and particularly if you go to Synology's own distribution, and that's their own site, you generally see a lot more stock. But particularly the mesh nodes, but not just that, stock levels are kind of erratic all over the place and sort of suggest that new stock hasn't been created and they are running these devices out. Now, again, it's not the first time we've seen the brand do that. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be killing the router series. We see plenty of times when the NAS brand is running out a certain annual series of a device, say the 2020 or 2022 series, and they want to deplete the stock levels enough so that when they introduce a new model, it doesn't become financially untenable. But to see it across an entire range, to a lesser or greater degree, of an entire portfolio of routers seems bonkers, not just the oldest against the newest. And again, added to the other 2 points I mentioned, in 2026, doesn't make a person feel good about investing in a Wi-Fi infrastructure around their home or their business right now. Synology is a reputable company, and one of the things that reputable companies do when they have particularly network software products is they have commitments towards the lifespan. Lifetime is not an actual lifetime, and service support and service support plans are important. Now, when we go onto Synology's own websites, the active maintenance period for these devices concludes at the end of this year, December 2026. Now, they do still have the extended life phase, as you can see there, with updates still happening, I will add, but the frequency is not filling many people with a lot of confidence. And again, generally what you find is the active maintenance periods for newer releases and software releases kind of overlap. Look at DSM 3 into 4 into 5 into 6 into 7. There's none of that here, and the active lifespan for the most current version of Synology's router management software, SRM 1.3, again, having active maintenance, that's real work, concluding at the end of the year, does not fill me with a lot of confidence. But I think now we have to move into arguably one of the most critical problems. The hardware not being up to task, particularly when you are selling this, the USP of these routers isn't the hardware, it is the software, is a big, big problem. Now, there are numerous examples you can find, lots of generalized examples. Probably one of the most thoughtful, detailed ones I found on Reddit was someone effectively laying down the law, figuratively and literally, about their device not delivering or functioning correctly with the three main USPs of their devices. Packet analysis in a multitude of ways, threat prevention, and safe access, and monitoring all of those different devices. When they were enabling one or two of these, the idle utilization of the CPU and comparatively meager RAM inside these devices was hitting 80 to 90 to 100%, which means at best your system might reboot periodically. At worst, these USP items of why you buy this router don't do their job, and threats get through. Packet analysis can't do its job, and people that are supposed to have safe access and be barred from certain things see them anyway. And these are big, big problems. Again, if this was just some old layered products that were reaching the end of their life and were going to be superseded with a refresh, again, something we've seen multiple times in the years, that would be fine. But it's the idea this is seemingly impacting their latest available releases, the likes of the RT6600AX, the likes of the WT-R560. These are devices that are seemingly suffering from weaknesses on a hardware level with no featured update around the corner for the software. All of these add up to heavy indications, and again, I've not heard anything concrete, that Synology's running the clock. That's all they're doing. They're running the clock to the active support and then slowly go out into the night and then focus on their NAS hardware. Now, why they may be doing that? Was it lack of adoption? Was it that they developed great software and they're a brand centered around the idea of software, but the hardware level on these devices just they couldn't hit that mark in terms of pricing there? And particularly, I think we have to acknowledge that the players in the market right now, your TP-Links, your ASUS, your whatever, but more importantly, UniFi, are absolutely slamming this element of the marketplace. And ultimately, it just looks like Synology have just gone, we can't compete. But again, that's only based on what we're seeing here with nothing concrete to go on. And I sincerely hope this is not the attitude that this brand might bring to their NAS products, thinking, well, we can't compete at this tier, we should just wrap things up. AKA the DSM 7.4 to DSM 8 to Active Protect argument I made in a recent video. I sincerely want to be wrong in this video. I sincerely want everyone who's echoing this sentiment online about the router series to be wrong. But all the indications seem to be that Synology are pulling out of their router game. And it just makes it very difficult to recommend them. Because if you're going to buy a router, particularly a mesh multi-node network across your business, you want to know this brand's got your back in a way they always seemingly have for NAS. And the big tell, I'll say right now, is if you start seeing significant price cuts on their routers during Prime Day, during Black Friday, if you see that, that is a worry, because there's no other hardware in the market to replace it. Normally when they do these sort of things, the newer generation is here waiting and they're clearing out. But if with no new generation, if they start pumping out discounts, avoid, avoid, avoid. But let me know what you guys think. Have you been a long-term Synology router user and you've found the platform to be suitable for your needs right the way up to today? Let me know. And if you are someone that has been impacted by some of the hardware throttling and more, let's talk about that. But there's an article as well below where we can pull all this together, and I'll link to all of the Reddit posts and the community posts and more, and Syno Forum, of course, that I've referred to in this article, in this video. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.